So I think we decided a long time ago that if you guys are paying for bonus content, we realize that you guys are P1. So we've been really sort of self conscious about giving you guys behind the scenes peeks of what's going on the Bert Show and how we really feel about things in ways that we might not be able to talk about it during, the mainstream Bert Show. And there was one last week that really struck me so strange, man. And I brought it up on the air as Kristen was talking about the Pinot period party. I had noticed that she was referring to, at least in my mind at the time, women as menstruators, and I didn't know why. And we live in such a PC time right now that there are just times where I'm like, these guys know PC way better than I do, so I'm just going to let it go. But then it was just spontaneously like, why are we calling them menstruators? And then with your explanation, which you'll give again here, we started to get some like pushback on it online that I found really off-putting.
And I want to clarify, there were some times I said menstruators in need, and then there were other times when I said women, girls, and menstruators in need. So it was just depending on how much time there was and, how quick of a plug or how long of a plug it was. When I put this event together, something was brought to my attention by Helping Mamas, which is the baby bank supply of Georgia, and they also collect period products for Period Poverty Awareness Month, actually all year. And they take them to domestic violence shelters, they take them to homeless shelters, they take them to, schools that, need them for kids who can't afford them or their families can't afford period products. Because 1 in 4 women, girls, and menstruators struggle to acquire these products. And if you don't have it, then you can't go to school or you can't go to a job, et cetera. It can really affect your day to day. So I've said, we're collecting period products for girls, women, and menstruators in need. And people, there were some people that had a major issue that I was using menstruators. And that's the reason why is while it's not a huge swath of people, there are some who do not identify as a woman, do not identify as a girl. They either identify as a he, him, or a they, them, or whatever that is not, she, her. And they also menstruate. And so it was just to be inclusive.
Right. So I'm starting to look at some of the comments online. And then I might have said this on the show also. I don't quite have a grasp on exactly what transgender is, to be honest, 100% honest with you. I can understand from the outside looking in how do I phrase this? How it's very difficult to be accepted in this community, really accepted. So the fact that we were being inclusive on it, what's the big deal if, let's say, 0.01% of our listening audience was touched by that and felt heard and felt seen, and it didn't affect you, then what is your big problem about just the word itself? And I think I drew the analogy that the same people to me that complain about, as white people, not being able to use the N-word is infuriating to me. Like, it's the kind thing to do. So saying menstruators, and you're talking about a split second of airtime, is the kind thing to do. So why is that such a big deal for those that aren't? Here's one comment that we got that it doesn't lessen your experience as a woman, but it lessens mine. Does it? Does it?
I said on air, like, by using this word, it does not, by including, he, hims, and they, thems, it does not diminish my experience as a woman. But for this listener, it diminished her experience. But you're going to have to ask her why, because I have no idea why.
Yeah, Rebecca wanted to get in. We definitely wanted you in on this, for sure.
So one of the biggest complaints that I always see when someone is unhappy with people using a word like menstruator is that it is dehumanizing to women, which I personally don't really understand, especially when the copy and everything that Kristen said was usually women and menstruators.
Yeah.
If anything, I feel like that is more dehumanizing to trans people or non-binary people. It's not. It's inclusive. It's so difficult because on one hand, the women who are going to complain about this and being called quote unquote menstruators, they would be equally upset or even more upset to be grouped with trans men in any way. You know what I mean? Like if we said trans men instead of menstruators, the comments would have doubled
God, yeah.
in hatred.
Yeah, Cassie was extremely passionate about this, calling out what you thought were transphobic people.
I was, and I stand by that. And, I think people hear transphobic and they're like, well, I don't hate trans people. Like the same way you can have racist actions and you don't think you're racist, but you are doing racist stuff, right? I'm sure, Mo, to put you on the spot, I'm sure you have so many anecdotes of white people who are like, I'm not racist, I have black friends. And you're like, okay, whatever. You definitely are a racist person, right? You've done stuff.
Definitely.
And so I think this, to me, this argument is giving the same as people who hate fat people, but they do it under the guise of health, right? Oh, I'm just worried about your health, but being fat is disgusting. Same kind of thing. Like it's dehumanizing to women. Why are you using menstruators? Why are you so angry at this word being used? I really need you to sit with it and dig deep on why it's making you uncomfortable. And is it because you don't believe anyone besides women can have periods? Well, there's your answer. And that in of itself is a fear of trans people. You're rejecting it. It is transphobic. And if you're looking at it like the Trevor Project says something like 26% of Gen Z identifies as non-binary. And then you've got another like 1.6% of Americans who are born intersex, which is where there is no definitive sex organs, right? Either way. And then you've got, regular people who are just like, I'm non-binary. You have trans men and women. So we're talking maybe like around 28% of the American population here. So it's not even like it's like 1 in 200 million, like 28% is a big chunk of people. We're using one word to include more people. And if you can't step outside your own bubble and say, hey, I'm glad that people who need period products, who can't go to school or work because they're not getting them, are getting them, because I know what it's like to bleed through my pants in public and it's an awful feeling, then what are you doing?
I think, while we're focusing on menstruators and the trans community, for me, it struck such a different nerve. I think I'm probably the most conservative member of the Bert Show in a lot of ways. I consider myself moderate, but I identify with a lot of things that are conservative. But I also think that you can be a compassionate conservative, and I think a lot of these comments are coming from a place of just like not accepting anything except who you are. So it didn't even necessarily have to do with trans to me. It has to do with sort of the climate of where we are now as a people. Like you can be conservative, not be considered a bleeding liberal just because you want people to be included.
Haha, bleeding.
There we go.
I just wanted to collect some tampons and Mexicanos. But Rick, so riddle me this, and this is we get this not just with this topic, but with multiple topics. And I would love to know a great way to respond, because I think we do get to a point where we just see things differently. And this whole topic is about inclusivity. But those that have a differing point of view as us feel excluded. So, for instance, this comment, yes, it is, and Cassie needs to stop being hateful. For the crowd that says they are all inclusive, they are lying because they only include those that agree with them. What's a good response there?
Shut up, idiot. I mean, what?
Maybe not. Maybe Cassie shouldn't have gone first on that one.
I'm just saying, to me, like that's a comment that's just fishing for a fight. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'd love to know, Rebecca, your thoughts.
My question would be, what is it about what we have said, women and menstruators, that makes you uncomfortable? Is it the fact that we are grouping you with trans or non-binary or intersex people? Is it the idea that we are boiling you down to something that happens to you once a month that that doesn't like define your womanhood? Is it because we're being inclusive? To me, I'm very confused about why it makes people uncomfortable in general, because personally, I think that it's semantics. It's people diving onto a word because they can't they can't go out and like just bold-faced be like, I don't want to be grouped with trans people. Don't do that to me.
Yes.
I think what we're evolving into here, though, what I'd like it to evolve into is a conversation about this this very fact that people are calling Cassie out for that. How can she say that you're intolerant when she is intolerant to your intolerance?
Yeah, I'm intolerant to intolerance. And here's the other thing. Not all women menstruate. So you're going to tell a woman with a hysterectomy, like you can get so granular.
Yeah, you
so
can.
menstruators really does cover everyone who is bleeding monthly, and that's what it's meant to do. But there's another thing at play here, and I think it's going to be hard. People aren't going to like what I have to say during this break because I think it is very hard to sit down and challenge yourself on maybe your own biases, especially if someone is telling you to. And especially if someone you really don't like me, is telling you to. But at the same time, there is a lot of pushback when you see power shifts in society, right? And it's hard for women because, you know, at the top of the societal food chain in America, it's men, white men, followed by white women primarily, right? And then what happens is when other people start to get included, whether or not you realize that you think your power and being like the dominating person in power is slipping away because somebody else is getting a piece of your pie. And that's when that infighting starts, where really if we gave everyone a voice and included everyone and worked together, kumbaya, you know, really things would work better. But that's why you see such pushback, like it happened in the UK as well in government when more people of color started taking prominent political roles. All the like white British people were like, oh my God, we're losing our country. But you're not. This is the evolution of society. This is what it is to be a part of a community that has multiple voices, multiple different lifestyles, and to uplift and support those other lifestyles and give them a seat at the table. Giving someone else a seat at the table is not taking your seat away from you.
The last comment. So let me get this straight. Women are coming forward saying they're offended at being called menstruators and think it's stupid. Instead of understanding and changing it to collecting period products for those in need, you double down and call us women transphobic. So women can't even speak out about how they feel without being called names. We're not allowed to feel offended and degraded about being reduced to our bodily functions. You say you're saying it for women, but this ain't it. I'm just trying to understand what's offensive and degrading about it, because that's where I'm missing the connection.
Abby, Mo, you got it here?
I really don't understand, to be honest. I don't know. I don't get it. I think the closest thing that I could see that would make sense is what Cassie said, is I think people have this vision of themselves, and whenever someone is empowered that may not be them or a group of what they feel like they belong to, they feel like they're losing power, and for some reason they go into attack mode because of it. That's the only thing I could think would make any sense.
I guess the only defense attorney argument that I can bring, and let me make it very, very clear that I'm on the inclusive side. Like I have no problem with us being inclusive, nice people to our listeners. That I have no problem with that. But I guess because I come from the conservative side, like I come from a very closed-minded background, and I guess I can speak to maybe a majority of the people in the comments that would maybe identify as Christian. I think they have a real problem being called transphobic because for them, we're coming at them from like a why can't you just get this? Why can't you just get this? When their worldview is that there are men and that there are women. And the trans people that are trans that are coming forward and being more open with who they are, they see that as like something that's new and not like, you know, people that have always just existed. And I think it's tough when we like bump elbows with people like that, and we see those as our friends, as our confidants and people that we're familiar with. They see that as something that they don't agree with because they see life a certain way. And so I can empathize with them to a certain extent where the word transphobic can kind of feel like you're threatening them or you're being mean to them, but we're just trying to bring more awareness of the fact that like these people exist and we just want to be kind to them and make sure that they know that they're seen.
Yeah, I feel like kindness is kind of gone out the window.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll admit to that. I'm very harsh, and the way I speak about it is not kind, and I probably wouldn't take kindly to being insinuated that I'm transphobic either. But I'm also at a point in my life where I'm like, you have the internet at your fingertips. Being trans is not something new. So you can learn that gender identity and sex organs are different things. Like you can sit down and research and read firsthand stories from people who are trans. You can learn the science behind it. You can learn about gender gender expression and sex characteristics. And so I get very frustrated when I sit here and I see these comments trying to take down people who are already attacked for being who they are. And then we have to sit here and like mince words over a menstruator. Like, that's what you're worried about? People are getting murdered out here in these streets for trying to live their authentic lives. And this is what you're worried about. So yeah, I am very intolerant of intolerance. And I probably could be a little bit kinder, and I probably do me and everyone well. But I sometimes think like somebody, and I'm not trying to be like I'm that person, but sometimes somebody has to be like, shake you like, hey, wake up. This isn't right.
Hey, well, we collected 75,000 period products, so
Hey,
there's that.
That's all that matters, girlfriend.
I get offended by the words 75,000.
Well,
I
how
would-
about if I try to make it 100K?
Next year?
Yeah.
Then I'll be okay with that.
Okay, cool.
Too many numbers.
Oh, sorry. You don't like you don't like the K?
Yeah, I don't like it for the people who are bad at math community.
The Bert Show.